3 Sinister Fall Tales. Discover the spine-chilling truth behind haunted souls and cursed secrets. The sun dipped lower, casting eerie shadows on the cracked sidewalks of Sarah's small Ohio suburb. The trees swayed, their branches whispering sinister secrets as Halloween approached. It was the time of year when costumes tricked the imagination, and the boundary between the living and the dead seemed to blur. Something felt off. There was an unsettling calm in the air, like the stillness before a storm. As Sarah pushed her children on the swings at the park, she glanced at her neighbors, their expressions tight, eyes darting away as if sensing something dark creeping in. Late-night nursing shifts had worn out Sarah's nerves, and all the whispers of the local librarian about the old farmhouse at the end of town only fueled her anxiety. "That place has stories," Sarah, the librarian, had warned, her voice shaking like fallen leaves rustling on the ground. "Don't let your kids near it." But why? What was so terrifying about that place? Shadows twisted in her mind, conjuring images that brought goosebumps to her arms. As the crisp fall air thickened with excitement, preparing her children for Halloween felt like a refuge from the malaise consuming her neighborhood. Yet, as they picked out costumes, laughter seemed distant. Sam, her 10-year-old son, was inexplicably drawn to the threat lurking beyond the farmhouse's rotting wooden fence. "Mom, can I go explore it?" he asked innocently, the way only a child could. Each crooked smile from her son sent a shiver through her spine, a message her heart could not ignore. One evening, the neighborhood organized a scavenger hunt, kids running wild, laughter echoing in the cool evening air. Then Sam vanished. Just like that, gone. Panic surged, sending Sarah into a frantic search while neighbors rallied, looking high and low. But as the clock ticked on, the authorities arrived but felt passive and distant, their eyes glazed over like those of the puppeteers hiding in their own stories. "We'll find him," they said, but Sarah's heart screamed otherwise. If she wanted Sam back, she had to plunge into the darkness herself. Determination ignited within her as she turned her focus to the whispers surrounding the old farmhouse. The tales of missing children, long buried, mixed with the cries of pain and uncertainty that wrapped around the very roots of her community. Every story crawling out into the light made her skin itch. It was becoming clearer, everyone she trusted, wrapped in their friendly facades, could be hiding cruelty. Stepping back into her neighborhood, Sarah felt different, like her own protective instincts had transformed. Eyes watched her, curious but wary. When she questioned her neighbors, murmurs of disapproval fell on her like lead. "Leave it alone, Sarah. It's not worth it." The message was clear. They wanted her to shrink back into conformance, but deep inside, dread bubbled over to defiance. The farmhouse loomed larger in her mind. Night fell, thick darkness enveloping her surroundings. As she stood before its gnarled door, a chill radiated through her bones. Every creak of the wooden planks called to her, shadows darted behind her. She hesitated, looking back, but guilt and fear blended in her heart. Then she heard it, a voice sweet yet chilling. "Mom, I'm scared." It wasn't Sam's voice. The whisper was softer, sinister, snaking its way around her heart. What horror had she awakened? The very air felt wrong. She had opened a door leading not just to the truth of her son's disappearance, but into a world where the past fused with the present, a web spinning a dark tale of loss and despair. The farmhouse beckoned her deeper. With a trembling hand, she pushed the door open, and the scent of decay mixed with fear danced into her senses. Would she find her son, or become the next name in whispered legends? Inside the farmhouse, the air was thick and suffocating, clinging to Sarah like a shroud. The darkness wrapped around her, a living entity breathing in sync with her racing heart. She took a cautious step forward, the floorboards creaking beneath her weight, each sound echoing like a warning bell. Dust motes danced in the faint slivers of moonlight that managed to filter through broken windows, revealing the decay of forgotten lives. "Mom," the chilling voice coiled around her again, stronger now, a beckoning that made her skin crawl. It wasn't just a call for help, it was a warning that sent icy tendrils creeping down her spine. Panic surged, pounding in her chest. Was it Sam? Was he close? The thought propelled her deeper into the shadowed depths of the house. A hallway stretched out before her, walls lined with peeling wallpaper that once bloomed with colors now faded, drained of life. She felt the weight of eyes on her, an unseen presence that prowled just out of sight, whispering secrets and promises of despair. Was the house playing tricks on her? Every breath felt heavy, laced with a lingering sense of dread. She moved forward, her footsteps hesitant yet urgent, until she reached a door at the end of the hall. The handle was cold, cold like death. Her fingers trembled as she turned it slowly. The door creaked open, revealing a room filled with shadows that seemed to shift and curl fearfully. In the center sat an old rocking chair, creaking back and forth as if someone or something had just occupied it. "Mom, please," the voice drifted again, this time mingling with a soft, almost childlike giggle. It chilled her to the core. Sarah's instincts screamed at her to flee, but her need to find Sam pulled her closer. She stepped into the room, fixating on an object that sat atop a small table. A doll, the same one Sam had played with when he was younger, its button eyes seemed to glisten with unholy knowledge. As she reached for it, the laughter grew louder, echoing in the room, blending into her thoughts until she could no longer tell where it came from. Her pulse raced. "Sam?" she whispered, but the only reply was a swell of ghostly laughter that filled her ears, drowning out her growing terror. Suddenly, the temperature in the room dipped, frost creeping over wooden beams. She felt something brush past her shoulder, an icy finger that left her gasping. Her heart raced. "Get out!" she screamed, but the voice that emerged was not just her own, it was layered with fear and desperation, calling to an unseen force. The doll cracked open just as a rush of wind exploded through the room, bats fluttering out of the walls, swirling around her in a frenzy. The door slammed shut, trapping her inside, the laughter echoing, consuming every space. Lights flickered, shadows twisted, horror enveloping her in a suffocating embrace. "Mom! Help!" The anguish in Sam's voice pierced through the chaos, rattling her very soul. It was coming from below, from the very bowels of the house, somewhere dark and terrible. In that moment, Sarah understood that she didn't just step into the farmhouse, she had walked into its curse, a labyrinth designed to ensnare souls. There was no escape without confronting the darkness, without uncovering the truth shrouded in whispers. Desperation ignited her spirit. She charged toward the doll, grabbing it tightly. As she did, the laughter soured into a screech, shattering her senses. Had she just opened a door to something unspeakable? Grim determination flooded her veins. She would find Sam, but at what cost? The walls trembled, and shadows writhed as if the house itself demanded a price. She pulled open the door to the stairway leading down, the sounds of laughter and cries blending into a haunting crescendo. What was waiting for her in the depths? With her heart pounding, she stepped forward, knowing that she had crossed a threshold not easily returned from. Would the truth save her son, or would it lead her deeper into the abyss? The only way was down, to where nightmares awaited. Would she have the strength to face them? As Sarah descended the creaky stairs, the darkness thickened around her, swallowing the faint glow from the room above. Each step felt like a descent into oblivion, a slow trade-off of hope for dread. The wooden steps groaned under her weight, the sound an echo of despair that made her skin prickle. What awaited her in the darkness below? "Mom, help!" Sam's voice trembled in her mind, distant yet piercing, a beacon amid the suffocating black. The air grew heavier, an oppressive blanket weighing down her resolve. She reached the bottom step and peered into a vast, shadowy expanse. The dim light filtered through gaping cracks in the walls, illuminating only the corners of the room, where blackness pooled like spilled ink. Whispers danced on the edges of her hearing, a cacophony of desperate voices pleading, warning, mocking. "Mom!" it echoed again, the urgency in his tone driving her heart into a panicked rhythm. Moving hesitantly forward, she approached a door that loomed at the end of the corridor. This one appeared older, perhaps more malevolent than the others. Its wooden frame was gnarled, almost as if the house had clawed it in anger. She reached for the handle, not cold this time, but fiery hot, like touching the core of a nightmare. With a deep breath, she twisted the knob. The door swung open with a low groan, revealing a room lined with mirrors. Fractured reflections stared back at her, twisting her reality into grotesque forms. She found herself suspended in a hall of echoes, where every step reverberated with cries of the past. "Sam!" she called, her voice strained and trembling. But there was no answer. Only the sound of her heartbeat thundering in her ears. A flicker caught her eye in one of the mirrors. A movement, something darted behind her. She spun around, breath hitching as she searched the room. Shadows swirled and coiled, but left no trace of a presence. A shudder rippled through her. This wasn't just a haunted house, it was alive. The air thickened, pushing against her. It wished to keep its secrets, its mysteries, hidden from her grasp. Then, the laughter returned, chilling and mocking. Not the innocent giggle she had heard before, but a cruel, twisted sound that siphoned hope. She whirled back to the mirrors, her heart racing. There was something in them. Sam's face appeared, distorted and scared, trapped behind the glass, his lips moving in silent desperation. "Mom! Please!" The mirrors pulsed, as if responding, drawing her closer. She reached out, fingertips grazing the cool surface. A sharp pain jolted through her, pulling her into a blinding void. The laughter crescendoed, morphing into screams, merging into one primal cry that echoed through the chaos. "Let him go!" Sarah shouted, her words lost in the whirlwind of spectral voices. Fear clawed at her, a fear that nestled deep in her chest and twisted until she felt like she was suffocating. With every bone in her body screaming to flee, she backed away, but found herself unable to move. The reflections had her captive, their spectral hands reaching out to grasp her ankles, dragging her toward the polished surface. Panic surged. She twisted and pulled, desperate to break free. A sudden loud crack broke the night. One mirror had shattered, shards raining to the floor like tears. The reflections twisted into chaos, and that single crack seemed to set everything off kilter. Dust and fragments swirled in the air, blocking her vision. "Mom!" The cry was louder now, raw with terror. And it was coming from deeper within the room. With a surge of adrenaline, Sarah plowed through the chaos, ignoring the sharp shards that grazed her skin. She would not let the darkness claim Sam. She would find him. At the room's end, another door stood, but this one was opaque, whispering otherworldly promises that made her stomach churn. As she reached for the handle, the air shimmered, a heavy weight settling on her shoulders. What lay beyond? Would she find Sam or something far worse? Time slowed as Sarah gripped the handle. With a violent wrench, she pulled the door open, the darkness beyond slithering like a living creature waiting. Could she withstand its secrets and save her son? The answer lurked just inside. What awaited her on the other side? The moment the door creaked open, a wave of icy air surged forward, wrapping around Sarah like a slithering serpent. She hesitated, her breath hitching as shadows twisted and writhed within the dark expanse before her. The floor shifted beneath her, the very earth feeling alive and hungry for someone to consume. "Sam!" Her voice trembled, cracking under the weight of her fear. "I'm coming." The darkness pulsed rhythmically, like a heartbeat. It whispered secrets, luring her deeper. She had crossed into an abyss ruled by terror. Closing her eyes shut tight for a fleeting second, she pictured Sam's face, his innocent smile, the way his hair always fell into his eyes. That image fractured her resolve. She couldn't turn back. As she stepped inside, the door slammed shut behind her with a deafening thud, snuffing out the last beacon of light. Panic surged, but she forced herself to focus. The room was larger than she had anticipated, filled with shadows that flickered among the towering shelves lined with strange artifacts. Old dolls, cracked porcelain angels, and grotesque masks loomed from the darkness, watching her with hollow eyes. She inhaled sharply. The air was thick, tinged with the scent of damp earth and decay. On the far wall, a large, ancient mirror stood, its surface covered in grime. The frame was ornately carved, twisting like gnarled branches reaching for the sky, whispering horrors from its depth. A chill snaked down her spine, but she approached it, drawn like a moth to flame. "Sam!" She shouted again, desperation clawing at her throat. The mirror suddenly flickered. Not her reflection, but a seen Sam, trapped in a small, dark box, the walls closing in. His face twisted in terror, tears streaming down his cheeks. His wordless yells echoed in her mind. "Help me, Mom!" Rage ignited within her. "I will find you!" Sarah screamed, her voice piercing the oppressive silence. The glass rippled like water after a stone is thrown, distorting her surroundings. Shadows surged, pulling her toward the mirror's edge. It felt malicious, hungry. She stumbled back, heart racing as phantom fingers brushed against her. A soft laughter echoed around her, chilling and familiar. "You shouldn't have come here, Sarah." It was her own voice, mocking and sinister, sending waves of dread crashing over her. She spun around, searching for its source, but the shadows swallowed it whole. "Let me go!" she shouted, face flushed with fear, her hands trembling. The darkness thickened around her, a suffocating veil wrapping tighter. She clawed at the air, desperate to find an escape. Just then, the mirror shattered, shards exploding outward in a shower of sparkling glass. The laughter transformed into anguished screams, a torment of souls crying out for release as the fragments fell, spinning like cursed stars. All at once, they revealed glimmers of the past. Faces faded in and out, lost souls trapped within the curse of the house. "No!" she screamed, backing away from the chaos. A figure emerged from the shards, a dark silhouette against the brutality of shattered glass, something ancient and powerful. A horrible realization gripped her heart. This was not a mere spirit, but something that fed on despair, and it had set its sights on her. Ahead, the room pulsated like a living entity. "Sam!" she wailed, the name a raw plea that echoed across the tormenting shadows. The laughter roared in response, drowning out her cries, enveloping her in an overwhelming darkness. The figure took a step forward, eyes glowing with malevolence. "Join us," it hissed, an insidious whisper clawing into her ears. Sarah's heart raced like a runaway train, inching closer to madness. Fear gripped her, and for a moment, she stood frozen. Would she join the countless souls trapped within the abyss, or could she still save Sam from the depths of this nightmare? In that heartbeat of turmoil, as the figure advanced, the reflection in the mirror shifted once more, a fleeting image of Sam's face breaking through the chaos, his eyes wide, pleading. And as she lunged toward the whispers, the question burned through her: what sacrifice would she make to rescue him from the grasp of hell? The answer loomed in the dark, waiting for her to uncover the true terror lurking within. The shadows thickened around Sarah as the whispered invitation grew louder, a ghastly chorus beckoning her. "Join us," echoed, piercing her sanity. She fought to remain still, but the floor began to pulse beneath her, alive and merciless. "Get away from me!" she screamed, voice cracking in sheer panic. The figure, dark as night, slithered closer, its form shifting ominously as it fed off her fear. Her heart thundered, each beat a reminder of her frantic desperation. She stumbled back, hands brushing against the jagged remnants of the shattered mirror, tiny shards glinting like devilish teeth. They cut deep into her skin, but the pain was nothing compared to the agony of losing Sam. Blood oozed from her palm as she gripped a shard tighter. "Sam! I'm coming!" she screamed again, lunging toward the flickering image of her son, desperate to anchor herself in the reality of his terrified face. Yet, the shadows twisted around her, cloaking her in a suffocating embrace. Each sob filled the void, dampening her resolve. Helen was gone, her sanity hung by a mere thread, pulled taut by despair. She pressed against the wall, searching for any semblance of hope, any glimmer of escape. The room pulsed in disarray as countless voices cried out, each lost soul begging for release. Let him go. Let us all go. She bellowed, her voice trembling. The figure shifted again, its formless existence coalescing into something more familiar, less frightening. Her own reflection materialized, and for a heartbeat, Sarah glimpsed a version of herself lost in shadows. The deeply sunken eyes, the hollow cheeks, she felt the weight of despair mirrored back at her. A truth dawned upon her, chilling and dreadful: this darkness was feeding on her essence too, each moment draining her spirit further. Holy hell, what have I done? She whispered, realizing that her grief was a feast for whatever lurked in this haunted void. In an instant, the floor vibrated violently, and the mournful wails morphed into a cacophony of laughter. Join us. The word dripped with malice, encircling her like a serpent of smoke, constricting her breath. No! She shouted defiantly. With a surge of resolve, she dug the shard deeper into her hand, a desperate reminder of reality that ignited a fire within her. She wouldn't simply give in. As she focused on the blood pooling in her palm, a sudden light ground through the darkness. The shadows recoiled, their solid form rippling with uncertainty in the face of her defiance. Tell me what it wants. She demanded, speaking to the figure, her voice edged with fury. But it only smiled, revealing rows of teeth that glinted in the dim light, sharp and inviting. It wants everything and everyone. Until the last soul is swallowed whole. No! The denial roared through her. She surged forward. But before she could reach the mirror again, the figure lunged, a mass of swirling darkness that enveloped her in a sensory onslaught of dread. She felt the room closing in around her, the weight of lost souls suffocating her with sorrow. In her frantic desperation, she caught one last glimpse of Sam, his tiny silhouette fading behind a wall of shadows and screams. Mom! Help! Her heart broke wide open, pouring pure determination into the air. But the darkness swelled, a tidal wave ready to crash. Before she could scream again, everything dissolved into a frozen hush, then an echo of laughter echoed in the silence, chilling and dark. Join us, but first, you must choose. As the void came alive with horror, uncertainty slithered through her. What choice would she have to make to save Sam? The air thickened, and Sarah could feel the darkness surrendering to her resolve, ready to force her hand in a twisted game of fate. The shadows bristled around her, waiting to unveil the true nature of her sacrifice. Only time would tell what she would risk for love, fear, and the agonizing choice that lay ahead. Would she lose herself in her desire to save him, or could she turn the tide before it was too late? And thus, the question lingered: how far would Sarah go to reclaim her son from the dark? The moment hung heavy in the suffocating air, as if time itself held its breath. Sarah stood, pulse racing, her blood-soaked hand trembling as she gripped the shard. The laughter, hideous and mocking, snaked through the darkness. You must choose, echoed relentlessly, but what choice? The shadows loomed, swirling with sinister intrigue, each wisp whispering temptation. Fear clawed at her spine, a chilling reminder of her vulnerability. Sam, she murmured, the name barely escaping her lips. It felt like a prayer, a plea against the darkness. Each heartbeat resonated like a war drum, echoing her mounting desperation. She had to focus. There had to be clarity in this chaos. Suddenly, the shadows pulsed, quivering with a hunger that felt both insatiable and inviting. Images formed within the blackness, lost souls dancing, flickering in and out of focus. Women with hollow eyes, men twisted in grief, all lost in the same sinister game. They teetered on the brink of despair, spirits ensnared like moths to a flame. Join us, they chanted, their voices blending into a sinister melody. Each word curled around her like damp fog, encouraging her to fold into the darkness. Just surrender. No. She fought back the urge to capitulate, her anger now a fragile shield against despair. But the darkness pressed closer, swirling around her ankles, tugging at her strength with icy fingers. What do I sacrifice? She shouted into the abyss, desperate for an answer as the figure continued to smile, waiting. "I'll do anything. Just tell me." The laughter morphed into something deeper, a rumbling that shook her bones. "You must choose your love or your life. Which will you let slip away?" The weight of that decision pierced her heart. If she blurred the lines between love and sacrifice, would any choice matter? Would Sam be saved if she lost herself? She recalled her sinking heart watching helplessly as he faded. The very image twisted her stomach, a gut-wrenching reminder of her fear. "Your choice, dear Sarah." The figure leaned closer, its breath cold as death itself. The light she had conjured flickered with uncertainty, shadows reaching out as if to connect, gripping the shard tighter. Her blood began to flow freely. It licked the floor, pooling around her feet, mingling with her fears. "No. Sam is my love," she shouted, heart racing in defiance. The shadows flinched, retreating slightly, like a dog at an unexpected bite. An uproar of whispers encircled her, rising like a tempest. "Love? Or life?" they taunted. "Choose before we do." Panic struck like lightning. Should she plunge deeper into the void, offering herself for her son's safety? The mirage of Sam faded, a last glimmer of hope. "Sam. Mom's right here. I won't leave you, I promise." But the echoing silence that followed clawed at her heart, swallowing her voice whole. "Enough!" she screamed, conjuring every ounce of love and pain within her. The shadows trembled. "You will not take him. I will fight." As she shouted, the shadows recoiled, the laughter diminished to a soft hiss. For the first time, she felt the flicker of power coursing through her veins. But as the darkness shivered, a new sound arose, a soft weeping, mingling with the shadows, pulling her attention. "Sarah," the voices sang, dulcet, calling her more tenderly. "Sarah, can you hear me?" Her heart dropped. "Sam? Mom?" His tiny voice, small but undeniable, tore at her very soul. The shadows shifted again, revealing glimpses of his figure trapped within. "I need you." Sarah stumbled forward, arm outstretched, reaching toward her son's cries. But the walls writhed between them, a nightmarish barrier of despair. "Help me, Mommy." In that moment, clarity fractured through the chaos. What was the sacrifice? If she ran, would she lose him? But if she stayed, could she become a lost soul alongside him? "Make your choice," thundered the figure, shadows coiling tighter. She focused on Sam's voice, her resolve sharpening into a blade. What was she willing to sacrifice? Her heart raced, fear tangling with a newfound fury. The shadows cringed under her gaze, the walls shuddering, the darkness weakening, and as she locked onto that shifting barrier, an understanding struck with cruel clarity. In this place of torment, she would be tested not just for her son but for her very soul. Hadn't she already lost so much? But then another whisper reached her, deeper, almost tender. "Abandon your love and you may both be free." A choice that promised hope, but at what cost? The question lingered as she stood there, torn between salvation and surrender. Would she dare to embrace the very darkness she fought against? As the shadows pulsed, teasing her with temptation, she had to decide. Which sacrifice will you make? The quiet suspense hung in the air, the darkness swollen, waiting to devour her answer. Would Sarah be brave enough to face the unimaginable, or would the shadows claim all? "Why do you linger?" the figure asked, its voice now a seductive whisper. "You know what to do. Release your love, and embrace the freedom from the chains of this place." Sarah's heart raced, a violent drum echoing in her ears. The shadows danced around her, stirring her memories, her fears. Her vision blurred as she fought the urge to yield, each heartbeat a stark reminder of her fragile hold on sanity. She could almost feel Sam's warmth fading, could sense the distance between them growing wider with each passing moment. "Mom. Please." Sam's voice shattered her reverie. Desperation laced through the tiny plea, dragging her deeper into the darkness. She strained against the unseen grip of the shadows that tugged insistently at her ankles, pulling her away from Sam. The figure smiled, a grotesque curvature of lips that promised more than it could ever deliver. You fear losing him, yet do you not see? Your love binds him here, just as it binds you. Set him free. A simple offering your heart for his future. Shut up. Her shout ripped through the air, echoing against the cold walls. The shadows fell silent for a brief moment, their hunger momentarily quenched by her defiance. You will not take him from me. Glimmers of hope flickered in her mind, fragments of Sam's laughter, his sunny smile. She pushed against the dread that throbbed at the back of her skull. Wasn't love worth fighting for? Would she sacrifice everything for one more chance to hold him? Suddenly, the shadows shifted, revealing skeletal hands that reached out from the inky blackness, clawing for her. Struggle is futile. We all must make sacrifices. Don't let love cloud your judgment, darling. A cold shiver raced down her spine. She glanced back at Sam, desperate to reassure him. I want to leave you. But the sight that met her eyes filled her with dread. The boy was fading, his form dissolving like mist into the oppressive darkness. Mom! His voice was now a whisper, fading. He was being pulled further from her, toward the festering heart of the shadows. Let him go. She screamed, brandishing the shard of glass like a weapon. You'll have nothing from me. The shadows recoiled, a collective gasp echoing through the void. But then the figure laughed, a rich sound that curdled her blood. You think you can hold on to what you love forever? Love is not a shield, it's a chain. Choose quickly. Panic surged in her chest. The thought of losing Sam, of haunting the edges of despair without him, paralyzed her. But with every second that ticked by, she could feel him slipping away. A part of her whispered, what if she could claim his freedom, let him go? She could be brave. She could release him from this nightmare, but would that also mean abandoning her very essence? The shadowed figure leaned closer, its putrid breath washing over her like a sickly tide. Strike a deal, it cooed, each word draping around Sarah like a suffocating blanket. What do you truly cherish? There must be something you can give up, that would grant you both solace. Stay away from him. Her voice reverberated with a strength she didn't entirely feel. Yet deep within, an unholy temptation flickered to life. What if this nightmare was a chance to save him, at the cost of her own soul? Give us your heart. One final act of love or lose him forever. The weight of the choice bore down on her like a vice. The cavernous space around her pulsed with energy, absorbing every ounce of her hesitation. She glanced at Sam once more, his silhouette a mere wisp, a memory slipping farther into chaos. Mommy, I don't want to disappear. Her decision lay before her, a precipice of dread. Could she sacrifice everything she was, everything she loved, for a chance at saving him? The shadows pulsed with anticipation, a quiet dread filling the air. Sarah stood at a crossroads of despair, choices tumbling through her mind, each one darker than the last. Make your sacrifice and be free, the figure murmured, waiting for the answer that would change everything that in that single moment, as darkness threatened to swallow her whole. Sarah realized, the true cost of love was never just a choice. Would she dare take the leap, embracing a fate shrouded in despair to save her son, or would she betray everything for a chance to be whole again? The decision hovered, heavy and breathless, as silence engulfed the chasm. Time hung like a knife, waiting to slice through the fabric of her world. The shadows responded, a hungry whisper that sent tendrils of dread curling around Sarah's mind. They seemed to pulse with an insatiable need. Time is running out, the figure hissed, its eyes gleaming like black coals, flickering with malicious intent. What will it be, dear? No, Sarah gritted her teeth, trying to block out the chaos. She glanced at Sam, his figure now a dim outline, trembling at the edges of darkness. The urge to reach out felt like an electric shock, sparking a deep well of determination within her. "I won't let you take him." Such bravery, the figure mocked, the grin stretching unnaturally across its face. "But your courage cannot hold back the tide of fate. Love is not a battle, it is a surrender." Each word felt like venom, wrapping around her throat, squeezing tighter. She cradled the glass shard, her fingers slick with sweat. The jagged edge glinted ominously, reminding her of the weight of her choices. Did love mean yielding? Or did it mean fighting back? Mommy Sam's voice cracked, pulling at Sarah's heart like a noose tightening around her throat. The fear lacing his tone ignited a primal need to protect. "I'm scared." "No!" she cried, her stomach churning. A mistake was lurking at the edges of her mind, whispering seduction disguised as release. If she gave in, would Sam's suffering cease? Would she find solace in the arms of the shadows? With every second, he faded more, his color draining until all that remained was a ghostly echo, and with this repressive truth, something within her snapped. "Fine!" she shouted back, defiance ringing in her voice, cutting through the damp air like a knife. "If you want my heart, you'd better make it a worthy trade." The figure paused, and for a heartbeat, its grin faltered. Shadows hesitated, hanging suspended in palpable tension. "Ah, brave little moth, seeking light within darkness. What do you desire in exchange, then?" "His freedom," she yelled, the words spilling from her lips like a dark spell. "I want my son to be saved to live. That's my price." A ripple coursed through the darkness. The figure swayed forward, intrigued, their sharp features illuminating in a fleeting glow. "You think it that simple? Perhaps you underestimate the weight of your love." "I'm done underestimating anything. I won't stand idly while you play with our lives." The power surged within her like a mighty river, refusing to be dammed. The weight of choices hung thick in the air, she felt it wrap around her, layer upon layer, challenging her resolve. Very well, the shadows swirled, enveloping Sam's spirit like a vessel lost at sea. "A trade it is, but remember, your heart whispers not of love but of darkness." With a swift motion, Sarah pressed the glass shard against her palm. Pain sliced through her skin like a firework popping in the night. Blood welled, a vibrant crimson against the cold despair of the world around them. "Take it!" she roared, infusing every ounce of her being into the declaration. The figure recoiled, intrigued. "Ah, my darling. You know? Heart and blood are two different things." "What do you mean?" The panic seized her again. Instinctively, her hand pressed harder against the sanguine droplets, every beat of her heart a drum signaling imminent doom. "You think you can simply give your love away? It's far more intimate than that." As if validating its words, the shadows shivered. Tendrils sprung forth, wrapping around Sam's fading figure and wrenching him back. He gasped, eyes wide with terror. "Mom! Don't! Sam!" Sarah lunged forward, desperation coursing through her veins, but the shadows held her back, forming rigid barriers that felt like barbed wire, biting into her skin. "Your son is tethered to you. It is you he wants. What will you sacrifice to save him? Your truth, perhaps?" The figure taunted, narrowing its eyes like a predator poised to strike. "No!" Sarah screamed, panic driving her voice higher, but the constraints only tightened, and suddenly it clicked. A chilling realization descended: truth as sacrifice. She had kept so much hidden, masked by her love, that love also served as a prison. "You're lying!" she spat, fighting through the constricting darkness. "Liar?" the figure repeated, head cocked with mock surprise. "Are you scared to admit what you'd lose? Your deepest fears, revealed?" Memories surfaced like brutal waves, moments of neglect, fears suppressed, the ugly truths of her own failures. Shudders wove through her body, but with it came clarity. I'm not afraid. Then perhaps shadows erupted around her in a frenzy. Perhaps the price is already too high. In an instant, the darkness surged, closing in around her. Sarah could feel herself unraveling as a voice echoed through her mind. Would she risk everything? Before she could respond, the shadows twisted violently, and Sam's figure began to flicker, like a dying light bulb. Her breath quickened, rattling in her throat as despair clawed at her insides. Choose. Time is slipping away, the haunting figure demanded, heart racing. Sarah's senses sharpened. The last whispers of doubt clawed at her resolve, making her tremble as she considered her words, but the truth lured her like a moth to flame. And then she understood, sacrifice was her only path to redemption. But would she unlock the door to salvation or to a deeper horror? The shadows almost seemed to breathe, waiting for her response, poised at the brink of obliteration. And in that suffocating moment, as fear and hope merged into a single perilous choice, Sarah found herself teetering on the edge of despair and a chance, perhaps, to reclaim her son. Would she plunge into the unknown to save him, or would the darkness claim them both? The shadows churned, wild and restless. They wrapped tighter around Sarah, pulling her deeper into their bitter embrace. Her heart raced, muscles tense with fear, yet beneath the panic festered a grim resolve. She wouldn't let Sam slip away. Not now. Sam! She cried, her voice piercing the oppressive weight of the gloom. The figure loomed closer, its eyes narrowing like a predator catching a scent. Your son calls for you, it taunted, voice dripping with malice. But can you truly reach him? Stop it! She shouted, each word fueled by desperation. But even as she spoke, doubt slithered into her mind. What if the truth stripped her of everything? What if the darkness was stronger than her love? Sam's silhouette flickered again, nearly extinguished, mirroring her anxiety. He looked lost and terrified, his small form shifting in and out like a wave breaking against a rocky shore. Mommy, please, he begged, voice faint and trembling. Glimmers of memories surged forth, her laughter with him, the sound of his tiny feet racing through the house, the way his eyes sparkled with joy. But darkness shadowed those times, too. The times she had turned her back when he needed her. Captured in her own worries, she had failed him. Each memory felt like a dagger. Admit it. The figure hissed, leaning closer, so close she could feel the chill of its breath. You're scared of what you might lose to save him. You've built your world on lies. Leave him alone. She screamed. Tears streamed down her cheeks, each drop mixing with the blood still pooling in her palm. Her heart thundered, every beat a reminder of her deepest fears clawing at her. The shadows pulsed, and within them, she thought she glimpsed lost souls, faces twisted in anguish, mouths open in silent screams, souls forever tangled in darkness. It sent icy shivers down her spine. Those were futures denied, lives abandoned. Sarah had to make her choice. Maybe, she started, her voice faint against the storm, maybe I will reveal everything. But the truth is not for you to take. I'm not as weak as you think. The figure recoiled, surprise flashing through its features before it settled into hunger. Ah, the brave little moth indeed. But how much will your truth truly cost? Around her, shadows writhed, seeming to lean in, waiting for the verdict. Sarah felt the weight of their gaze, heavy and invasive, urging her to crack under their pressure. If I give you my truth, if I lay bare everything I've hidden, you will let my son go? She asked, voice trembling but firm. Perhaps, it whispered, but remember, the truth may shatter you. With her child's life hanging in the balance, Sarah nodded, determination blooming against the coldness. I will lay it all bare. I choose my son. Dark whispers encased her, swirling around her, threatening to latch onto her very essence. Then unveil your soul. Share the secrets and sins, for they hold the key to both your futures. As darkness seeped into her, she could feel the weight of every guilty thought, every moment she had hidden from herself. The grip tightened until she gasped for breath, but she pressed on. I never wanted to fail, she whispered, memories flooding forth, haunted by the unfiltered echoes of her mistakes. I thought I could protect him by shielding him. But I only pushed him further away. The shadows shuddered, rippling at her revelations. Pain flooded through her like fire. More the figure demanded, eagerness thrumming in the air. Your most hidden fears. Without them, your son remains lost. Leaving him alone was easier. She cried, agony lacing her voice. I thought ignorance could shield us both, but it was the opposite. With each confession, something within her began to tear, layer by layer, as memories of regret washed over her. She felt light, yet burdened, as though her truth was forging a pathway to liberation. Stop. Sam's voice cut through the fog, barely a whisper now. Mom. You're hurting. Hold on, sweetheart. Just a little longer. She cried, desperation surging inside her. Your heart, dear. The final piece, the figure's voice snaked through the shadows, seductive and dark. Will you trade it? Your heart for your son? Sarah's heart dropped. A cold wave swept through her, as if the air itself conspired against her resolve. What would it cost her? Was it too late to take it back? Would she even survive the act? Her heart beat in tandem with Sam's flickering presence, drawing them closer as the shadows loomed, demanding her surrender. But a question echoed in the depths of her mind: what if losing her heart meant losing herself, too? As she grappled with this horrifying choice, the darkness swirled, hungry and eager. Would she sacrifice the last of her humanity to reclaim her son, or would the darkness consume them both? Racing thoughts clasped around her, tightening into a noose. Each breath felt like it could be her last. The price lingered, heavy and uncertain, just out of reach. And in that moment, she knew she had to act, but could she face the truth of her heart? Could she betray the very essence that connected her to Sam to fight for him? The shadows loomed larger as Sarah clutched the shard of glass, her heart pounding like a war drum. A decision loomed over her like a dark cloud, heavy and thunderous. I will do anything to save him. She cried, the weight of her words thick in the air. Anything? The figure taunted, its smile twisted and sinister. Then surrender your heart fully, and what will you become? Enough games. Sarah shouted, adrenaline igniting her fury. She surged forward, the pain in her palms stinging with life. It was a reminder of everything she fought for. Sam needs me. The whispers swarmed around her, cold and malicious, beckoning her to surrender under the guise of freedom. Your love binds him here, just as it binds you, the figure intoned hypnotically. Only a true sacrifice will free his spirit. No. Sarah felt the warm tears streaming down her face. Each drop unleashed her pain and fear, cascading down to the floor like embers extinguished by rain. You want to take him from me. Then choose, the figure hissed, its voice curling around her like a sinister embrace. Love or life? Only one can remain. Every heartbeat echoed Sam's name in her ears, his small voice crying out for her. Mom, please. Fear twisted in her chest like barbed wire, but clarity surged through the chaos. Perhaps the true sacrifice wasn't about losing her heart, it was about exposing the vulnerabilities she kept locked away, the moments of failure and regret. Would she risk it all for the chance to save him? Fine. She shouted, steeling her resolve. I choose to acknowledge my weaknesses. I will lay bare my truth. The darkness shuddered, sensing the shift in her energy. Proceed, it whispered, eager for her confessions. Let me hear the echoes of your heart. Each memory swept over her, catching her breath like a tidal wave. I was so scared of failing that I pushed him away. I was so consumed with work that I didn't see his pain. With every revelation, the figure convulsed in delight. Deeper. Speak your fears, and you will find your son. I thought keeping him away from danger would keep him safe. But all I did was lock him out. I was a prisoner of my fears. The shadows shuddered as she unleashed her burdens, the weight lifting with each confession. More. Your love is not enough, your heart must be free of its chains. Sarah inhaled sharply, caught between solace and despair. I'm afraid I'll lose him forever. But I won't let the darkness consume him. I can't. I refuse to be part of this. The figure wavered, shadows flickering in uncertainty, momentarily distracted. But how can you save him without recognizing your darkness? Because I have the power to choose. She roared, will igniting within her. I would give anything to protect him. I choose love, and no darkness will take that away. The chains around Sam flickered violently, a desperate energy rising in response. In a sudden shift, Sarah found herself standing at the edge of a precipice filled with light as sunrise amid the suffocating darkness. Don't you see? The figure screeched, shadows convulsing in fury. You've revealed enough to break the curse, but would you really sacrifice all your love? I would sacrifice every shadow, every fear. She shouted back, tears streaming as she reached into the light, feeling its pull against the shadows. Sam. I'm here. Hold on. As she stepped forward, the darkness roared, a tempest rising against her resolve. But her heart swelled with newfound strength, the memories of Sam's laughter filled her mind, outweighing all fear. Together, we break free. The moment her heart transcended into pure determination, the shadows shrieked, retreating in pain. No. You cannot leave. And then, with a rush of blinding light, everything shattered like glass, the echoes of resentful shadows screaming as they dissolved into mist. In the aftermath, silence cloaked the room, as if the world held its breath. Sarah opened her eyes slowly, dim daylight filtering through the wreckage of the haunted farmhouse. There, beneath the sunlit glow, stood her son Sam, alive, trembling yet safe. Mom, he whispered, his eyes wide and shining. I'm here, sweet boy. Sarah rushed forward, sweeping him into her arms, warmth flooding her with love. Together, they stood amid the falling remnants of darkness, their hearts intertwined and their spirits whole. As the sun began to rise fully, banishing the shadows back into obscurity, Sarah felt the weight of their experiences enough to know they were free. They stepped out from the haunting farmhouse, towards a world alive with light. Never again, she murmured, squeezing his hand tighter. Never again will I let fear keep us apart. Together, they ventured into the open air, leaving behind the curse of the farmhouse, their spirits unbroken, the love they shared stronger than any darkness. Sometimes, love meant courage, letting go, and embracing the truths which set them free. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to help feed the algorithm, and flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this epic conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful ending. You need to support the channel, it means everything.